involved in family businesses have an oversized influence on your surrounding. What you do in your personal life, what you do in your professional life are more aligned than probably in other cases. And your personal values can actually be leveraged to change business practices more broadly. So I just recommend that you think about that during tonight's conversation. We're going to hear from 3 very inspirational next generation leaders who've changed their businesses from outside and from within. I'm certainly going to be thinking about what it is that my role is also inside and outside of family businesses using this platform. I'll leave you with a quote from one of my professors from a few years back who said, your only imperative in life, the only thing you have to do, and this applies to everybody, is to outperform the index of your privilege. Do better than what you think you can do. And with that, Alexis, you're going to give us a few words about FBN, and then we're going to hear from our next gens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. That's the title of a great session, Outperforming Our Indexes of Privilege. Well, we're quite privileged at FBN. We gather a community of, actually today, almost 5,000 families across 65 countries, and several of my colleagues from all over the world are here with me today, from Sweden, Spain, India, Netherlands, Italy. And we've been doing this for 40 years. And maybe some of you had not heard from us because we were, as I was saying, private and relatively happy. Now we're becoming more public because we think part of our mission is advocacy and tell our stories. Now, yes, privilege. This is what we're talking about today. We are privileged. We're privileged, yes, because of our values, but because of our resources, of our assets, of the legacy of our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, uncle, aunts, cousins. And you know those numbers, they vary between 15 trillion here, 20 trillion there, 255 trillion, whatever. I mean, the numbers go beyond what we can imagine, but this is privilege. And the question is, we can talk about it, we can learn from it. Now, what are we going to do about it? What are we doing about it today? And that's what we're going to hear from 3 great leaders, next-gen leaders today. Yeah, let's imagine what we could do if we were to commit all together for a sustainable future. This is not what FBN represents, hopefully one day, but what business families represent worldwide. And when we see those numbers, we really think we're privileged, and we don't have the right to anything. We have the duty to act now. Because are we going to be 70% of the problem or 70% of the solution? And I think what we want to talk about here tonight and over the next few days and few weeks and months, not years of decades, the next few months, is how together we're going to come to act and be part of the solution. Now, we're obviously uniquely placed to work on those SDGs. And at FBN, we've been doing a lot of work over the past, let's say, dozen years, looking at ourselves, at our businesses, working with a great organization like B Corps and others, and see, okay, how can we do that? And we've learned a lot. But I think we've reached a point where we think that learning is not enough, exchanging is not enough, we need to act. And we're celebrating this year the 10th anniversary of our sustainability community, which we're rebranding, relaunching. And I have a short video trail to tell you what it is about, and then we will illustrate it with 3 speakers, 3 members tonight on stage. So if you can play the video, please. So yes, we want to move from learning to action, from knowing to impact, and we want to do that consistently across what we call the 4 drivers of change. For generations, business families have been active on transforming and thriving across business, investment, and today a lot about impact investing, philanthropy, and advocacy. We want to convene families so they can work together on those 4 drivers and be coherent about them, because I think we no longer want a beautiful, profitable plant, which, by the way, pollutes the river, and then the Family Philanthropy Foundation cleaning up the river. We want that cohesion, and the 3 next gens that are going to be on stage with me and with you this evening are going to talk also about that. So I want to try to listen to these 3 stories and think about how they inspire you and how you think you can reach out to them, work with them, be inspired by them when you go back home, and really drive that systemic change. Because a lot of us, most of you, all of you, are doing zillions of exciting, inspiring pilot projects. It's great work. Great word, pilot project. And they're inspiring. They bring entrepreneurship. They bring innovation. But I think we need to bring those pilot projects together to create that systemic change and move from small projects to big systemic changes. Now, it's hard. We will hear from the stories. It takes courage. You know, as we learned today from the business education session, it takes leaders who are prepared to make hard and tough decisions. And let's welcome those 3 leaders on stage, Maria Paola, Marina, and Poman. Please join me on stage. So, yes, sit down. So welcome to the 3 of you. We have 3 out of the 5 continents represented. Maria Paola from Italy, from Europe, Marina from Brazil, Latin America, and Poman from Hong Kong, Asia. Just a few words on them, starting with Poman, who has many titles, but your legacy business is Regals Hotels, a hotel chain, and you're the vice chair of that chain. You're also the founding partner of Alpha Trio Capital, and you created also recently an institute called the Institute of Sustainability and Technology in Hong Kong. You'll tell us a little bit about that, on how to accelerate change in the environment through green tech. Marina Pfeffer, from legacy business is Suzano, a large pulp and paper company in Brazil, one of the leading companies in Brazil and Latin America. And 3rd generation, I believe, fourth generation, and the 5th is you have 2 children.
And many more in the 5th gen.
And many more next gens. And you're the co-founder of Generation Pledge, a group of dozens, almost 100 next gens who are making a big commitment to drive systemic change. We'll learn more about that. And finally, Maria Paola Chiesi from Chiesi Pharmaceutical, a well-known pharmaceutical company in Italy. You're the vice chair of Chiesi Pharmaceutical. You also have another hat, which you're the director of the whole sustainability department and activities. You're the president of the Chiesi Foundation, and you're the founder of the Regenerative Society Foundation in Italy. And Giovanna from our Italian chapter is also here with us tonight. And you have 3 children that are growing, maybe one day in the family business. So what we want to do first is hear from each of them, their stories, how they're driving that change, how sometimes it's not as easy and they need to take sort of side roads to convince the family and other stakeholders. And then I'll ask them a few questions to sort of talk a little bit. We won't take Q&A because, you know, we want to continue to the conversation, and, you know, dinner has been served, so feel free to eat if you're starving. But let's first listen from Maria Paola. So Maria Paola, Chiesi Pharmaceutical, by the way, the first large pharmaceutical company becoming a B Corp in 2019 already. Tell us a little bit about that, about who you are and how you've driven that systemic change.
Okay, so good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for this invitation. I'm so happy to be here, and I was so curious about Davos, frankly. it took me 4 hours to come from Italy, and it took me then 1 hour from the beginning of Davos till the SDG tent. I'm not sure it's completely sustainable. Maybe we have to suggest something here. Anyhow, I'm third generation in the family business, and I've been working with the family business, within the family business, for the last 30 years. I shouldn't say that. Right. Yeah.
We think in generations, not in quarters, so that's fine. You know. 30 years is 1 quarter to the financial markets today.
And what I've been doing basically in the company, it's always been about strategy. So, and I have a special passion for strategy. And I did strategy and I did international marketing. And it happened that one of the businesses we are actually most involved in is neonatology. In particular, premature babies, drugs, medicines for premature babies. When you have to do with families that have premature babies, something changes in your mind. It's not a business anymore. So I'm talking about the beginning of the years 2000. We were very much involved in this aspect of care, and we started thinking. We became market leader, by the way, in this business, and we said, okay, we are doing a lot for babies that are in rich countries, and babies in poor countries are not able to have access to even basic care. So we started reasoning about this, and we decided to create a foundation. So we created the Kizzy Foundation. In 2010, I decided to step back from marketing, and I took care of the Kizzy Foundation. And then I started to think about the concept of impact. How could I justify to the founder, that is the company, to give me every year money for the Kizzy Foundation? The Kizzy Foundation was doing projects in low-income countries to improve access to basic neonatal care. And so I started working on impact and the concept of impact, and in particular the concept of the theory of change. And I still had my head as strategy. And so the question then was, why don't we transfer the concept of impact and stakeholders from the Kizzy Foundation to the company? Why not? It was consistent with the values of the founder, my grandfather, and the integrity value that was the foundation of our company. And so this is how it all started. In 2016, 2017, we started to reason about the concept of shared value, the social role of businesses, the social roles of, in particular, family companies. And we wanted also to measure our impact, because it's easy to talk, but then when you want to really measure what you're doing, and that's how we started to think about becoming a B Corp. The good thing was that when I proposed, so the approach was holistic to the whole company, because B Corp, the B Corp certification evaluates, measures the impact of the company 360 degrees in respect to all the stakeholders. And when I proposed to the family to become a B Corp, the good thing was that they didn't look at me thinking that I was crazy, but they said, let's give it a try. And so in 2019, effectively, we became the first pharmaceutical company obtaining the B Corp certification, which is only a starting point, because you measure and then you have to improve. So, and we took this with a strategic approach. So the good thing is that now we merged sustainability with strategy, and so the two departments are now one single department, and I think this really will allow us to completely embed sustainability in the strategy in the strategy of the business.
Thank you very much. That, some very strong words. You merge sustainability with strategy. You said, let's give it a try and bring that entrepreneurship that many families have to create an opportunity. At the session earlier today on responsible business education, we heard that you can continue to create sustainability initiatives in business schools on the side, but if it doesn't go across all faculties, you're not going to change it. So why don't we think about merging all the strategy departments with the sustainability departments and see where we would head to. Thank you, Maria Paula. We'll come back to you later on. Moving east, Poman, Asia is resonating a lot, waking up to a lot of the challenges on the environmental side, on the social side, and you've taken some pretty bold steps to not only transform your own business, the hotel business, which is a challenging business as far as sustainability is concerned, but you also created an initiative to accelerate transformation through green tech. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Alexi. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. In the past few years, I've been an evangelist for sustainability, for impact investing. But tonight, I feel especially grateful for this opportunity to connect with you all, because even though we are obviously from different parts of the world, I feel a very profound connection, because ultimately we all share, the being a second or third generation, or being part of a family business. And I feel that I can even more openly share some of my experiences, because I grew up feeling very grateful and privileged. I think you mentioned the word privilege just now. And there were times when I wonder exactly, why am I here? What am I supposed to do with life? So when I was younger, I actually felt that I had everything. I had good friends. I did pretty well at school. I was in a very loving family. But I was very lost, and even to the point of being disillusioned, because I felt there were a lot of problems in the world. But when I actually joined my family business, I met Buddhist teachings, which well, first of all, I think Buddhism doesn't have to be a religion. It's more a way of life. But just being able to find that purpose in life and be able to embrace it at the core of our business was actually the turning point. Because, like, for example, 13 years ago, we launched the first carbon neutral hotel in Hong Kong. I'm a dog lover. At the height, I had 14 poodles. So because of them, I spent a lot of time in nature, and I felt very connected. And I also I studied psychology, so I care a lot for the next generation. So I've always wanted to do something for this world, to help. And the fact that I could actually embrace that and then integrate it with our business was extremely meaningful for me. And I would say during this journey, I was very encouraged to actually find that one can do well by doing good. Because to help decarbonize our operations, we have been investing in a number of impactful tech ventures. And we find that these companies actually were successful because of the impact they deliver, rather than in spite of. So most of us have been led to believe that, we want to maximize profit, and then you donate. But I think now, finally, the stars have aligned because of our awakening, because of the fact that we all understand that we are faced with all these existential environmental challenges. And the only way is to really empower those innovations, both in terms of technology or even innovative business solutions to help us solve these problems. So with these rather successful experiences in investing in tech, we decided that perhaps we should actually share this expertise with more, and that's why we have established a fund named Alpha Trio. Alpha because we believe that ESG and impact can actually be alpha generating. And alpha is also the brainwave associated with mindfulness. I was very glad that we were able to breathe and actually calm our minds with those moments just now. And Trio, because we believe that each and every investment can indeed drive triple returns on people, planet, and profit. So our mission is to empower those technologies, disruptive technologies that can help us accelerate the transition. And in Asia, I have to say we are lagging behind, even though we are driving high growth, but we also account for 2/3 of the world's emissions. And sadly, we only account for roughly 17% of all the total AUM dedicated to impact investing, which is why I feel that it's really time to set up a fund, a platform to hopefully get more people to involve, because oftentimes startups, they don't just require our capital, they really need resources. They need connections, they need test beds, they need pilot cases. And this is where we can actually help them to fine-tune their business models, to let them really test out their solutions so that we know that they can in fact be both impactful and financially successful. And another initiative that I started is the nonprofit Institute of Sustainability and Technology, because I feel that to really be able to embrace sustainability at the core of your corporate agenda, it's important that we make sure that everyone is trained up in the organization. It's not just the finance professionals. If we only focus on finance training, that means that we probably aren't doing it for the right intrinsic reasons. So it's important that we actually invest in capacity building so that everyone is equipped with all the knowledge, because knowledge is actually the driving force. And the Institute of Sustainability and Technology provides executive education courses to train up our entire workforce, and also we sponsor interdisciplinary research, and also we organize conferences. So actually I'm here because we have been working with the World Economic Forum to co-organize the first ever Green Davos. It's called One Earth Summit, and it will be held in Hong Kong on March 25th. We call it One Earth Summit because we really have to join hands and urgently face all the challenges to save this one and only planet Earth that we all share.
Thank you. Strong word resonating with also Maria Paola. You said integrating with business. Both are stories of bringing sustainability at the core of the business. It's a journey. Now, you started to decarbonize 13 years ago. That's a long time, Pullman. Well done. And
13.
13, yeah, 13, yeah. Well, let's think about, are we picking our hotels? Are we looking at hotels that are carbon neutral when we go to a hotel? Probably not, but let's think about that. And so really, really well done. And then it's all about the resources and the connections and the change management theory that we also heard with Maria Paola. It was really a change management process across the company, and with having the family values flow through the company to convince them to change. Moving back west, southwest to Brazil, Marina, tell us about how you are working out step by step, bringing other next gens with you to sort of start to make some systemic change.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alexi. I also feel extremely happy to be here today, as both of you said. My family has been a member of FBN, I think that for 15 plus years, and I have never really engaged actively. But last year, Alexia and I, we spoke, and he said, I want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, which he brought here as a sentence. And I felt really engaged. This is the type of leadership that I want to work together with. And we have been developing a partnership. So being here in this room of people who care and want to build towards the same direction means the world to me. So thank you so much for the invitation, the opportunity, and meeting both of you who we have already spoken, and I'm feeling super connected. So thinking about what was the tone and the main message that I wanted to bring to the session, I spoke last week to a colleague of mine that I admire deeply, Falco from CSP here. And Falco spoke to another mutual friend of ours, Robert, and he brought a concept, which is moral ambition, that really speaks to how I am perceiving the time in life that we are living. So for many of us, we know that not only what we will do today with our decisions will influence the future, but it will determine the future. Not the future of 5 generations from now, but the future of the generation that is alive today. So if that is true, and if that is a worldview and a concept that makes sense to many of us, what shall we do? What's being asked from us? How are we going to step up to the plate in a way that we have not done yet? So this is the tone that I want to bring. And I have been asking myself every single day and asking people close to me, are we fine with failing? Are we? And if we are not, then what? So this is a framing that I want to share with all of you. And going back and telling a little bit about myself, I have stayed my whole life with a question, which is how do people build mindsets, which will be the raw material with which they will build systems? It's the way that people make decisions in their life, in their lifestyle. It's the way that people make decisions around businesses. We heard the stories here. And it's the way that we build ultimate different types of systems. So that question took me to study psychology also. Yeah. And the reason why I studied psychology was because I wanted to give the leap into systems. And until I was 23 years old, I'm 35 now, until I was 23, I believed that my career would be far apart from the family business. There was nothing in the business of the family that seemed to resonate with my impact intentions. So I went to work with public policies. I worked with complex, vulnerable situations for a long time. And when I was 23 years old, there was a big aha for me because I started to learn about family businesses and I started to go to educations and courses and programs. And when I looked into the proportion of family businesses in GDP, I had to go for a walk and really digest that information and really own the story. What does it mean to have the opportunity of being from a family who is part of this? So how do I own my story and really use this opportunity of the family to leverage my own results, things that I could probably not do without using the family as a leverage. So many steps further, what's happened in my career. I have 15% of my working time committed to the family enterprise. We are a holding group. I'm from the 4th generation, so our main company is in the forestry sector. Recently, we became the leading pulp producer globally. We have other subsidiary companies, and we have a family office with an investment firm. I have a seat at the shareholders board at the holding level, and I am also leading the philanthropic foundation that is connected to the family. And most recently, 1.5 years ago, I started a working group to think about capital allocation at the holding level and who do we want to be into the future and how do we translate those values and visions into financial portfolios. So this is what I do with the family. And the other 85% of my time is with Generation Pledge, which is the community that together with a dear friend and my working partner, Sid, we started this 6 years ago. And in the end of the day, what we want to build is towards a change in the culture of multi-generational wealth, where we can really invite wealth holders and future wealth holders. So we're talking specifically about second generation of wealth beyond, so inheritors of wealth, to understand what are all of the capitals that they hold and what can they do to translate that into positive assets, building positive effects in the world. I'll talk more about polycapital very soon. So there was, for me, this big aha of the role of families. And there is a difference that we do not only look into families in business, so operating companies, we look into families who own wealth. So just recapping the numbers that Alexi brought, we have $220 trillion in the wealth management industry today, and that will go more than double into 2050. So we have families that beyond their businesses, they have flexibility and they have malleability. So what we're doing, we're doubling down in the role that these families can have to face the poly-crisis that we're living. So we have crises in democracy, water, poverty, climate, like all of economic instability. And we believe that in order for us to have an influence in the poly-crisis, we need to activate our poly-capital. And what we have learned over time is that families of wealth, they have more than economic capital, and the toolkit that they bring is very specific. They have social capital, so they have access to certain communities, rooms, they can bring other people along. So the multiplier of their social capital is higher than in other situations. They also can use their public positioning, which is a very strong tool. So that is the social capital. Then there's the political capital. So how do you use advocacy and try to influence public policy? Then career as a capital. Many people who come from wealth have outstanding education, but possibly not being directed towards positive impact. So how do you do that? And finally, economic capital, which entails businesses, so the operating company themselves, investments, and philanthropy. So what we have been doing is supporting the families in using their poly-capital to activate what they can do. And just like bringing a bird's-eye view, why do we believe in the role of private wealth, and why do we believe that it's not being spoken enough about? I was reading last month and a half article that was launched at The Economist. And I knew this, but I didn't know exactly how important it was. But governments have been living a debt crisis that we have not experienced since Napoleonic times. And this is where we are now. Pension funds, they have made commitments that they will not be able to deliver because of crisis that they're also living. So if we pause, lean in, take that into consideration for real, where does the next pool of capital that can have a big tent in shaping the future, where does it come from? We bet in private capital because of a flexibility and a malleability that it holds that no other pool of capital does. So with that, I'll pass it back to Alexia and really bring this question of how can we talk about private wealth in a way and work not only with the mindsets, but building the rails so that we can see private wealth playing the role that it should in building the future we would like to be born at.
Thank you. Thank you for inspiring. Ooh, yeah. That's a call for action. You said it's about building mindsets so we can build systems. It's back to this systemic approach, this integration, polycapital, be coherent across all the capitals of the family. And you asked the question, how do I own my story? I think it resonates with what Fred was saying in his opening remarks. How do I outperform my indexes of privileges, including financial, economic, educational, social, advocacy capitals? Let's start a little bit of a conversation before we can move to the main course and you can catch up with your appetizer and we can get on drinking the good water of Davos or the good wine of André's family, which is organic, by the way, no? Yeah. Getting there. This panel is what do you notice of this panel? It's next gen. It's only women. Whoa. I have a confession to make. It was not by design, but it happened to be by design now. And I see Unlocking Eve here looking at me from their table. It was a bit by serendipity because there was a fourth speaker who's a dear friend of us, an FBN member, but his wife is expecting a baby and he's watching us. And so he said, I'm going to stay home. So kudos to him also, but to support his wife. Anyway, it's... I don't want to talk about gender or women, but I think this is important to see that you have pretty radical thinking in a new generation of business leader, women business leader. And maybe if you can say a few words, the three of you, about what is required to think together and to act together and not in silos. In most of our families, we've had great figures of what we call at FBN monumental fathers. We also had a lot of us monumental mothers as well, but they were sort of hiding behind or influencing the monumental fathers. But what do you think it takes to bring people together? And all of you are working with other families. And we know how it's hard to work together, especially when you have lots of resources and you can do it yourself and you can sort of move forward fast with your projects. What does it take to really act together and then move from a few pilot projects to systemic change? Maybe starting with you, Paula.
Well, I'm a woman by chance, not by choice. Okay, but if I were to choose, I think I would choose to be a woman. I'm the only female in our family, in the part of the family that is in the business. And as I said, I was fully supported by my family, but I think that this systemic approach maybe is connaturate with the female mentality and the oxytocin, which is the hormone that is the caring hormone. It's all about caring, taking care. I have 3 children. I know what taking care means. And talking about stakeholder, it's about taking care of not only your business or your family, but really understanding who else is impacted by what you're doing. I was really, I think I share very much your experiences, because at a certain point I was really about to leave the business for good. But then I said that if I were alone, I could do that much. If I continued to be in the business, well, at least I could try to involve in this and engage in this the 7,000 people and families that work in the company. And then maybe we could engage the value chain, all the suppliers. We have 16,000 suppliers, so that's a lot. And maybe we could engage our local community, or we could engage our peer companies in trade associations. And so my haha moment was when I realized that alone I could really do little. But within the company and within a network of companies, we could do a lot. And I think the basis is the concept of taking care. And by the way, again, this comes a lot from the personal experience I had with the families of premature babies. So I think I was also privileged because of that experience.
Thank you. You're definitely working hard and you're outperforming your indexes of privileges. Well done. Poman, this Green Davos, this foundation, this One Earth Alliance, I know you're already working with a few families. Some of them are actually here in the room. Fred, Tao and are part of. How do you convene other families on that project? I mean, how do you convince them?
I think it boils down to a common vision, a shared values and shared vision of a better world, more inclusive, more resilient, and a brighter future for generations to come. So I think that's what really brings people together. It could be business partners or even employees within an organization. I have to say, I think part of the reason why all three of us had at one point thought of leaving the business or leaving the commercial world is because the conventional way of doing business is to simply maximize profits, because we thought that we would only be accountable to our shareholders. But now I think we are in a new era where, even for investments, we don't just look at risk and return, but there's a triple helix of risk, return, and impact. And as I had mentioned, I think a lot of the businesses that we have invested in are successful, again, because of the impact that they have been able to generate. And I think the new generation particularly appreciates this, which is why I think that for a business to be able to enjoy sustainable growth is really important to embrace purpose. In that, when we truly try to solve problems for the world, when we try to understand the needs of our customers instead of just imposing whatever we're trying to sell to them, when we are driven by that genuine desire to bring about positive change, I think that is really the key to success. Just as, again, in life, I think embracing a clear sense of mission and purpose, that is the key to sustainable happiness, rather than, trying to buy more, to own more, or to gain more recognition. I think that just puts us on a hedonic treadmill. Rather, when we are so clear about, our mission, it doesn't matter, what outcomes, because we have already tried our best. So that brings me to create this summit, this Green Davos event, because I think it's really time that we let go of all our attachment to boundaries. I think it's really time for us to transcend above all divisions, because we are really facing this one and only problem, common war, and that's climate change, which is why we again call it One Earth Summit. And the theme for this year is Planetary Crossroads, innovating for the well-being of people and planet, because really we are at a critical juncture. We are going through the greatest transition in the history of mankind, and we're running out of time. To meet the 1.5 degree limit, we basically have less than 6 years, because we are having roughly 40-some gigatons of carbon emissions. So that leaves us with a quota, and the clock is ticking. If we don't act now and come together, the consequences will be irreversible. So irreparable damage to the planet. So while, some of the less enlightened, less awakened business owners might be just focusing on driving profits, actually, we don't even know what kind of world we're leaving to the next generation. Things that we take for granted, like skiing outdoors or running in the countryside, I think that might not be even possible for our children. So that's why we have formed One Earth Alliance, which is a community, a platform that Fred and I have established to provide a platform to convene prominent, influential leaders, more important, purpose-driven leaders from the private sector, from public sector, academia. So that will include family offices, business owners, financial institutions, philanthropists, to really collectively drive that change, to deploy catalytic capital, because we are the ones who need to be the stewards of change, who need to really follow our North Star. Because if you were just an employee, it would be more difficult, right? Because there are other considerations. But when we are the ones who could really define the legacy that we want to leave the world, we can really drive that strategic catalytic capital to empower those innovations. Because again, we are the problem, but we can also be the solution by empowering those innovations. Without them, there's no way we can catch up in time.
Thank you for this call.
So sorry, just one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
One more, because tomorrow we are actually hosting a party at what's the name of the hotel again? Parson Hotel from 6:30 to 9. So it will be an open cocktail gathering. So please join us to discuss
2-minute
ways
walk that way.
Yeah.
On the left.
Yes,
There we
yes.
go.
So we will discuss, ways to really empower the change that we want to see in the world.
And deploy that catalytic capital to drive systemic change. Thank you very much. Very inspiring. Marina, last words on, same concept, polycapital, catalytic capital. How are you bringing that through Generation Pledge?
Yeah, and also I would like to talk about the first question that you asked, Maria. So how do we work together? Because if we are talking about big challenges, Elon Musk is not rich enough to solve them. So it has to be collectively. And we all know that it's hard, and we're not there yet, right? So at Generation Pledge, we have 93 individuals part of this community in 24 countries. Am I satisfied with where we are? Are we grasping the collective power of this community? Not yet. Not yet. So what does it take? So Sid, my co-founder, and I, we joke that maybe 20 years ago, if there were a problem in a country, let's say my country in Brazil, things are going really badly. Let's move to New Zealand. Let's go to New Zealand strategy. We're going to have a farm there. We're going to live well. Their kids are going to be in nature. Probably the education is good. It's safe. Let's go to New Zealand. Now, the New Zealand plan doesn't really make it, because if climate is threatening all of us, it's not going to be as easy neither to live in New Zealand. But we're probably going to be better off than most people. So I'm just telling the story of the New Zealand strategy because I think that we have to reframe the problems. Whatever we do with our individual efforts should be combined to others, because the size of the problem is humongous. So the strategies to respond to them, they have to be collective, just because we have to be able to find the positive tipping points where we're able to get the numbers there. So we have to pool capital to be able to find the proper solutions. So that is my final consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you for these very inspiring words. And every family business comes from a village, and we all have responsibility not only to that local village, but also to that global village. And you're three examples around the world of what really business families can do to drive that change together. And we at FBN actually, we also want to innovate and change. We've been a very safe space, private, non-solicitation network. And in the context of this new impact community, we want to create an open space along those 4 drivers of change and really invite families to come together under the FBN umbrella and really pull resources together. Not small resources, but significant resources to drive their projects together to bring that systemic change. So we'll be inviting many of you in that open space where you can learn from each other and you can act together. Just a few words to conclude, because I think it's high time that we get to the main course and conversation. At the end of the day, what we're really trying to do at FBN is this sort of bring together those two worlds. We live with paradoxes in our worlds of business and family, and we think that both sides have great values. And if we find a way to bring together those two sets of values, some people would call it capitalism on one side, socialism on the other side. We don't want to be political. The world is, political enough these days. But I think we can bring the two of them together. It's not easy. It requires a lot of courage and determination, as our 3 panelists today have demonstrated. And it's really an invitation for all of you to be on that journey. And as you were saying, Maria Paula, you know that African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Frédéric. Thank you to you, your family, your wife, Julie. Thank you, all of you, for having driven, flown, taken the train, walked from all corners of the world. And please continue the conversation, but try to think about how you can act And don't wait to be back home, to be sort of overwhelmed by emails and calls and requests for more projects. So try to see how you can start to act tonight. Thank you very much, all of you. Enjoy the dinner, and let's continue the conversation. Thank you to our three panelists.